The dingo fence has been a remarkable natural experiment, the longest fence in the world.
In 2015, late-night hosts joked that Australia had so much empty land, it fenced the nothingness just to pass time.
It's the longest man-made structure in the world.
Critics called the project's bureaucratic overkill, a national obsession with chicken wire.
And one of many gates in it in particular, this is the Worry Gate.
Everybody laughed at Australia for building thousands of kilometers of fences. 10 years later, the truth hit hard. Those lines now decide which species survive, which farms thrive, and even how crime scenes are solved. Today, we follow the wire to discover why the joke no longer lands. Rabbit lineage. Christmas Day, 1859 looked harmless when grazier Thomas Austin freed 24 European rabbits for weekend sport. Yet by 1880, their descendants were advancing 60 kilometers each year, mowing pasture to bare sand and collapsing wool yields across Victoria and South Australia. Local newspapers called the invasion the Grey Plague and begged governments to act. Western Australia answered with civil engineering. In 1897, surveyors pegged a single wire line near the Zydorp Cliffs. Within 10 years, it had grown into the 1,206-kilometer state barrier fence, 3 strands of galvanized mesh buried 30 centimeters deep, and cleared 5 meters either side to deny shade for burrowing pests. Boundary riders on camels were paid rations of flour, tea, and tobacco to walk 30-kilometer beats twice a week, patching holes with hand-forged staples under 45-degree heat. Results were mixed. Rabbits still wriggled through joins, yet farmers noticed side benefits. Pigs, emus, and wild dogs struggled to breach the barrier, giving fragile wheat shoots breathing room. Fence culture took root fast. By 1905, Queensland was carved into 9 rabbit districts, each taxing graziers to extend their own mesh. Inventors chased a $2 million bounty by proposing electrified outriggers, kerosene beacon lights, and telegraph-linked trip alarms. None cheap, but all hopeful. Science finally tipped the scales in 1950 when myxomatosis virus escaped from field trials and cut rabbit numbers by 90%. Parliament debated removing redundant wire, but wool boards objected. Predators had learned to patrol the lines, pull them out, and the first bad season could devour a year's profit. A structure built to halt one pest had become essential to an export industry, then delivering half Australia's foreign income. The episode taught 2 iron lessons. Biological invaders spread faster than any public works program can react, and once fencing becomes part of farm accounting, removal may cost more than construction. Outback families still swap campfire stories about dust clouds that hopped and squeaked like rain on tin roofs, a living memory of the Grey Plague. Maintaining the barrier remained punishing. Diaries describe riders boiling billy cans beside wagon wheels, counting every third post allowed to stay awake as mirages shimmered on the horizon. When camel trains replaced horses in 1903, the men celebrated ditching water barrels, though the animals sometimes ate leather bridles and collapsed on salt pans. Today, travelers follow the dusty, rabbit-proof road, stopping at weathered huts and a hand-cranked gate that still points west toward the Indian Ocean. Interpretive signs explain how the mesh shaped ecology, economics, and national character. Everybody laughed at Australia for building thousands of kilometers of fence. Years later, the truth hit hard, and the very same mindset would soon target an apex predator with even bolder wire. Economists at the University of New England modeled the historical fence's present value. Accounting for avoided pasture loss and wool shock, they calculated the old mesh delivered benefits worth $5 billion, 10 times its cumulative maintenance spend. Those numbers silence most critics. Yet historians caution that the dividend was never free, because Niaju and Wangatha country was sliced apart without consent, scattering songlines and drainage patterns, a social bill that still waits to be settled. Drawing the dingo line. If rabbits battered Australian agriculture, dingoes gnawed at its conscience. Sheep stations recorded annual predation losses above 10%, and newspaper cartoons painted the wild dog as a prowling tax on wool. Politicians vowed a mechanical fix and surveyed a new frontier fence, one that would bottle every dingo north and west of the sheep heartland.
And the purpose of this fence is to keep the dingoes from Queensland out of New South Wales.
Survey crews started in 1914 at Jimbor, Queensland, marching southwest, hammering hardwood stakes along compass bearings that ignored rivers. By 1958, the dingo fence measured 5,614 kilometers, longer than the distance from London to New York. If uncoiled, it could wrap Spain twice. The barrier of barbed wire and ring-lock mesh, standing 1.8 meters high, cast a steel horizon across the red center. Construction was grueling. Laborers swung 10-pound augers under 45-degree sun, boiled tea in axle grease tins, and slept beside rolls of wire so hot they could fry eggs at dusk. Pay sat at 2 pounds per mile, but most walked off the job before lunch. Those who stayed invented workarounds. Where rocks blocked digging, they stacked rail sleepers as barricades. Where floodplains threatened washouts, they wove brushwood mattresses, then laid wire on top. Maintenance became a never-ending relay. Today, 21 doggers in turbo-diesel utes patrol allocated beats that average 300 kilometers. Each carries 50 kilograms of replacement mesh, 14 steel pickets, a coil of crimp sleeves, and a tire repair kit. Satellite phones link them to a command room in Broken Hill, where pressure sensors ping if a single strand snaps. In summer, they carry 50 liters of water and an icebox packed with frozen oranges, the only fruit that survives 5 days without a fridge. Annual upkeep costs about $10 million shared among state and federal coffers, plus a levy of 10 cents per sheep shorn. Graziers grumble but admit a single breach wipes profit faster than drought. A night in 2022 saw a rogue pack kill 59 lambs in 4 hours near Hungerford. The owner found carcasses stacked like firewood under a mulga tree, a silent audit of what a loose staple costs. Socially, the fence slices through 23 language nations. Some elders guide doggers to waterholes. Others see the line as a wound that splits songlines and kin ranges. Ecologically, the contrast is stark. Satellite imagery shows greener scrub west of the line where dingoes roam and red kangaroos keep numbers modest. East of the wire, kangaroo herds balloon, chewing shrubs to stubble and stirring dust that rides westerlies into Sydney sunsets.
There's many more kangaroos and foxes and cats on this side of the fence.
Scientists tag joeys and note that those born in predator-free country grow slower and develop lighter bones, proof that evolution reacts within decades. Ecological dominoes. Remove a top predator, and the food web wobbles like a three-legged table. West of the dingo fence packs still keep red kangaroos wary. East of the mesh, kangaroos graze in slow herds large enough to show up as ochre blotches on satellite images. Their teeth nip shrubs to stumps, and hoofs pound topsoil into powder that gusts toward the coast. Scientists from UNSW compared 3 decades of Landsat data across the Strzelecki Desert. Greener vegetation indices appear west of the dog line, while the east side fades pale, a postcard the size of Ireland that anyone can download. On the ground, ecologists measure twice as many woody stems and deeper litter layers in dingo country, evidence of healthier nutrient cycling. The knock-on effects reach mice, beetles, and even air quality. With more plant cover, west side soils trap carbon and moisture. Inside the fence, sparse grass allows wind vortices that lift dust and carry it into Sydney sunsets. A reminder to city commuters that a livestock subsidy can color their evening sky. Bird life changes too. Masked lapwings nest safely near dingoes because foxes there are fewer. Inside sheep country, fox numbers soar, raiding ground birds and pushing some species to local collapse. Tagging studies show that a single fox can consume hundreds of threatened skink hatchlings before breakfast. Disease risk follows density. In 2024, veterinarians sampling kangaroos near Cunnamulla discovered Wallal virus levels triple those across the fence. Crowded mobs act like virus incubators. Biosecurity teams now aerial dart 10 animals per waterhole each spring, spinning up portable labs and swag tents to test blood within an hour. Plant geography also realigns. Without dingoes thinning grazers, palatable shrubs disappear, replaced by spiny wattles that stalk refuse to eat. Over time, those wattles fix nitrogen, tipping soil chemistry, and opportunistic weeds such as bufflegrass march in, laying a flammable carpet that boosts wildfire risk. Ecologist Arian Wallach proposes selective fence removal to let predators rebalance the country, but wool growers fear a 20% lamb loss would wipe multi-generation mortgages. A 2023 Senate committee heard both sides and allocated $5 million for a pilot exclosure to gather data instead of opinions. Everyone laughed when Australia started building these fences, until the truth hit hard. These wires didn't just stop jaws, they reshaped ecosystems, rewired climate feedback loops, and even altered the color of desert dunes. What began as a simple barrier has become a cautionary tale of unintended consequences. Today, before any politician dares to shift a single post, they're forced to reckon with the chain reaction that started in the dust and ended in the sky. Geomorphologists studying the Simpson Desert notice dune crests grow taller where dingoes roam because vegetation traps sand. Inside the fence, constant grazing exposes dune backs to wind, flattening their profiles and letting storms carry fine particles far offshore. That airborne dust seeds plankton blooms in the Tasman Sea, linking a steel gate in Queensland to fisheries thousands of kilometers east. So one predator influences seafood. Microbiologists add another layer. West side soils host richer fungal networks that help mulga seedlings germinate. Inside the fence, those networks shear away, and saplings struggle. Every removed predator therefore cascades through fungi, fish, and finally supermarket prices, a chain reaction invisible until the invoice lands. Such surprises keep ecologists very humble and politicians nervous. Rust, budgets, camels, steel and sunlight wage a quiet war in the Outback. Each dawn, ultraviolet light bakes galvanized mesh, while midnight frost pulls moisture through pinholes the size of a pinhead. Termites climb posts and hide between wire strands, excreting acids that start rust from the inside out. By 2024, auditors declared 1,000 kilometers of the dog line fatigued and likely to fail within 5 years. New South Wales responded with a $25 million rebuild. Helicopters sling pallet loads of high tensile net to depots unreachable by road. Crews swap splintered hardwood for composite posts, recycled from milk bottles, a material that shrugs off termites and never needs paint. Auto gates powered by solar panels will replace timber swing gates, so truck drivers can cross without risking an open latch. Yet budgets can barely outrun entropy. A single summer storm can dump 200 millimeters of rain in an hour, turning dry creeks into chocolate torrents that peel away 50 meters of fencing like ribbon. Floods in January 2023 left a 32-kilometer hole near Taibu Burra. Contractors prioritized towns, forcing graziers to jury rig panels with cable ties, and hope predators had other plans. Camels rarely oblige. Australia hosts 500,000 feral dromedaries, descendants of Afghan cameleers. They drift south in drought, search for water troughs, and hit the fence like wrecking balls. One bull can twist 20-star pickets in a single night, leaving mesh accordion pleated across the red dirt. Station owners fight back with gadgets. Drones carrying infrared cameras fly dawn patrols, emailing breach coordinates before the sun reaches full furnace. Some install vibration sensors inside wire cores that ping a phone app the moment tension changes. Others plant motion-activated lights along camel corridors, betting that a sudden floodlight persuades thirsty hulks to detour a few kilometers. Maintenance consumes lives as well as dollars. Doggers live 3 weeks on, 3 off, eating canned stew and talking to wall calendars. The job pays well, but isolation shreds nerves. Companies now offer mental health check-ins by satellite phone and rostered breaks in coastal motels to keep crews from walking away mid-swing ticket. Insurance underwriters study breach maps before extending credit. Properties inside known weak zones pay higher premiums or face exclusions for predation losses. Banks adjust mortgage valuations accordingly, proving that a rusty knot of wire can move interest rates in Sydney boardrooms. A single snapped strand carries economic ripples that travel from camel tracks to capital markets, and the repair ledger grows longer with every heat wave. Keeping the line intact has become a running race against physics, biology, and climate change, and nobody can drop the baton. Engineers pilot fresh ideas. One prototype uses glass fiber cores coated in conductive inks to create a self-reporting mesh. If rust severs even one strand, the circuit opens, and a dashboard in Broken Hill pings red within seconds. Another project seeds drought-tolerant saltbush along the cleared corridor because deep roots stabilize soil and cushion flood scouring. Innovators even 3D print replacement picket caps on site using sun-powered resin printers hauled in a box trailer. Specialist screens. Australia's fencing story has evolved from crude bulkheads to tailored screens aimed at single culprits. Nothing illustrates that shift better than the New Haven cat fence in the Northern Territory. Finished in 2018, it encloses 44 kilometers of satin mesh with an outward floppy lip that defies feline acrobats. Inside, bilbies, mala, and central rock rats have returned after decades in exile. The sanctuary's heartbeat is digital.
The dingo fence has been a remarkable natural experiment, the longest fence in the world. It's longer than the Great Wall of China, but
Every gate carries RFID sensors that log vehicle tags, and a LoRa network relays motion alerts to rangers' phones. Hot nights trigger automatic audio lures that mimic cat yowls, drawing intruders to bait traps before they can hunt. Poison-free ejector devices then spray a specially formulated curiosity capsule onto a cat's fur. Grooming provides the lethal dose without endangering native scavengers. Amphibians needed a different tactic. Cane toads, imported in 1935 to fight beetles, now hop westward up to 37 kilometers each year. Researchers in Queensland ring-fenced cattle dams with 60-centimeter shade cloth. Toads desperate for water hit the barrier, exhaust their reserves, and die within 2 days, while native quolls drink undisturbed. Pilot sites report a 95% fall in toad numbers after one dry season. Roadkill demanded technology, not poison. In 2022, Eurobodalla Shire trialed virtual fences along Prince's Highway. Posts spaced every 25 meters detect headlights, then emit a broadband squawk and blue strobes that kangaroos interpret as an oncoming predator. Crash data shows nighttime macropod collisions dropped by almost 90%, saving insurance costs and hospital beds. Crocodile management flipped the logic again. Near Lake Argyle, a 12-kilometer fence keeps cattle out rather than reptiles in, protecting nests from trampling raised hatch success by 20% and cut calf losses. Skeptics claimed salties would simply climb out, but time-lapse cameras caught a 4-meter male attempting once before sliding back to the billabong, apparently deciding beef was more effort than fish. Even invasive plants get wired. The ACT government rings rare snowgum groves with mesh fine enough to block feral deer that strip bark in winter. Within 5 years, leaf area index doubled, and songbird counts followed. A quiet victory scored by an 800-meter barrier that costs less than a suburban roundabout. Engineers now talk about intelligent porosity, matching hole size, height, and sensor load to the exact threat. Some panels are printed with conductive ink, so a single break triggers a satellite ping. Others pair mesh with thermal cameras that feed machine learning models able to distinguish a hopping mouse from a fox in moonlight. Each specialist screen shows wire can be scalpel, not club. When design follows ecology, fences stop being monuments to fear and start becoming incubators of recovery, one tailored panel at a time. Next on the horizon are acoustic fences built for bats. CSIRO engineers have weatherproof ultrasonic emitters that project a wall of distress calls, steering insect-loving microbats away from wind turbine blades. Field trials in Victoria cut strike deaths by 2/3. National rollout could save power revenue and keep river red gum pollinators airborne. Costs are lower than physical barriers. Humans at the wire. Wire not only steers animals, it corrals lives. The dingo fence carries real legal teeth.
It's the longest man-made structure in the world.
Leave a gate unlatched, and a magistrate can award 3 months behind bars. Cut mesh, and 6 months follows. Signs at Cameron Corner shout, "No dogs, no excuses." Tourists still snap selfies straddling the line, half amused, half warned. Just east lies a place few influencers tag. The Australian Facility for Taphonomic Experimental Research sits behind double chain link topped with razor wire. More than 70 donated human bodies rest under eucalyptus shade, teaching detectives how decay unfolds in heat and drought. Researchers discovered ligaments contract after death, gently moving limbs, a detail now cited in homicide courts worldwide. The fence keeps dingoes out and curiosity seekers safe from trauma. Yet ethics committees insist the public should know why the grisly enclosure exists. Guided tours for forensic students happen monthly, their buses reversing right up to the gate so nobody accidentally drops a phone over the wire. Along other stretches, Indigenous ranger teams blend old tracking with drones that stream 4K video. Elders read emu footprints and sand ripples while tablets plot breach heat maps. Their observations feed machine learning models that predict where the next camel surge will fold star pickets like drinking straws. Isolation taxes even tech-savvy crews. Doggers run 3-week swings, dining from tins and broadcasting nightly playlists on private radio frequencies caught only by wallabies. Companies now pay mental health stipends and rotate workers through coastal breaks, acknowledging that a fence can fray the mind as surely as wind frays wire. Economics joins psychology. Underwriters examine breach statistics before quoting farm policies, and banks discount property valuations inside high-risk cells. That makes a rusty hinge in the desert a variable in Sydney mortgage spreadsheets, proving ecosystems and finance share more linkages than city brokers admit. Cultural narratives also diverge. Graziers call the fence salvation. Some Barkanji elders call it scar tissue across country. They argue billions spent on wire should instead remove feral cats and restore river flow. The debate surfaces every budget cycle without clear winner, showing that no strand of steel is neutral. Behind each post stand people balancing livelihood, law, memory, and mental health. The politics of wire is the politics of who gets protected first and who waits, and that argument will outlive the strongest galvanized mesh. Decision-making unfolds at quarterly fence boards, held in a fibro hall near Bourke. Graziers, ecologists, Aboriginal corporations, and bureaucrats sit in plastic chairs, while a laptop beams in city economists over patchy satellite internet. Agendas swing from bolt specifications to whether guardian dogs could replace wire in certain valleys. Last December, the board heard a case study from Sturt National Park, where 2 Maremma dogs cut predation by 70%, yet cost less than 1 kilometer of rebuild. Such presentations spark cheers and eye rolls, but they prove that innovation is no longer optional when climate extremes threaten to triple maintenance costs by mid-century. A resolution passed to trial 3 dog teams alongside seismic sensors and to review results at the next Dusty gathering in early 2026. Global mirror. Australia is not the only nation drawing lines across landscapes, but it serves as a cautionary blueprint for places that try. Botswana stretched veterinary fences through the Kalahari in the 1980s to block foot and mouth disease from cattle exports. The unintended result was mass wildebeest die-offs when herds met steel during drought migration. Canada's Alberta Plains tell another tale. A 2022 University of Calgary survey used drones and LiDAR to count fence density, discovering 16 times more wire than paved road. That maze now complicates pronghorn antelope journeys that once clocked among North America's greatest migrations. Researchers collaring fawns link rising juvenile mortality to time spent searching for gaps. Europe faces its own fence renaissance. Since 2015, nations from Slovenia to Denmark have erected boar barriers to slow African swine fever. Some sections sit abandoned after outbreaks passed, but they still trap red deer and lynx. Conservationists call them ghost walls that deliver no health benefit, yet fracture already squeezed habitats. The lesson resonates back in Canberra. Policy staff comparing case studies note that fences deployed fast for single crises tend to linger for decades, accruing maintenance debts nobody budgeted. Australia at least maps and patrols its megafence daily. Many countries cannot even say how much wire they own, let alone its ecological cost. Evolutionary warnings come from older structures. The Great Wall of China, first chronicled in 656 BC, has had over 2 millennia to separate populations. Geneticists sampling plants on either side find reduced gene flow and higher inbreeding coefficients, a slow burn risk that modern fences could replicate much faster in smaller, fragmented populations. That possibility already shows up in Australia. Biologists tracking red kangaroos report individuals east of the dog line grow lighter skeletons and mature later, probably because dingoes no longer cull the slow. Should the fence vanish overnight, naive roos might face a predator shock they are not built to survive. International delegations now land at Tibooburra to study solar-powered gates, composite posts, and GPS bait drops. Namibian herders, Mongolian wolf managers, and Arizona ranch consortia swap tips under the pub's corrugated veranda. They arrive thinking Australia is over-fenced and leave scribbling lists of features to copy back home. Wire is no longer a punchline, but a global export. The real question is whether lessons on maintenance and unintended consequence travel as quickly as product catalogs. The planet will judge success not by kilometers laid, but by whether wildlife can still move when seasons change. There is hope. In 2004, Botswana removed part of the Nsaipan fence, and within 3 years, zebra reclaimed a pre-colonial migration stretching 600 kilometers. The revival boosted grass turnover, watered pans, and tourist revenue, proving that wire scars can heal if politics allows. Ecologists point to that comeback when pitching adaptive corridors instead of continuous walls. They imagine virtual geofences toggled by GPS tags that open digital gates when herds approach, then close once they pass. melding technology with animal instinct. Australian engineers are already trialing the code on feral goat mobs near Cooper Creek, with promising preliminary field accuracy reports. Moving the line. With tighter budgets and worsening climate forecasts, Australia is rethinking its old fence strategies. In March 2025, a proposal suggested moving 50 kilometers of the dingo fence north to let dingoes return to dying grasslands, while protecting key sheep areas with guard dogs and high-tech lambing yards. A trial near Wanaring showed that removing just 1 kilometer of fence helped plants regrow, lizard numbers rise, and soil improve within 3 seasons. Supporters believe this approach could restore 100,000 hectares, now turning to dust. Critics, however, worry about repeating past mistakes, such as livestock attacks. A government report estimates this new plan could save $80 million in fence maintenance over 20 years, but might risk $65 million in stock losses if it fails. New technology offers solutions. Sydney engineers have tested fiber optic cables that detect paw movements and activate loud sirens. Combined with drones that drop harmless pepper balls, these tools create a digital barrier that updates with software, not bulldozers. Climate extremes make action urgent. Floods and fires destroy fences yearly. Smarter systems like polymer posts, sensors, and insurance incentives for using new tech could help Australia adapt faster than laws ever will. What's your take on Australia's massive fence network? Are they protecting or harming the ecosystem? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.